Alright class, in this short video we're going to be talking about the Asian elephant, which happens to be one of Thailand's most important symbols and animals. So let's begin. First off, the Asian elephant is the national symbol of Thailand and plays an important role in the Thai culture. In the past, Thailand was full of trees high in the mountains. These mountains made it difficult for people to use machines to cut these trees down. Very hard to take machinery up there, very hard to take vehicles up there because there were no roads. So elephants were used essentially as pack animals. They were the ones that kind of did the heavy lifting. For example, some jobs would be pulling the logs, as you see in this picture. Obviously carrying people and goods across the country. So they were used as almost like semi-trailers are used today. They were used to transport heavy things. They could be used for dragging plows to till up the ground to get ready to farm, and many more jobs. But they were mainly used for the logging industry. Now, throughout history, elephants have been used in Asia to do a variety of jobs. They've been used in some instances even in war as war animals. Soldiers would ride them and the enemy would run away in the other direction because they oftentimes had never seen an animal so large. One thing that is certain is that it is not easy to train an elephant. In fact, it takes many years to train them how to work. Now, in Thailand, these trainers have a specific name, and each elephant has its own trainer called a mahout. And I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but these mahouts are in ownership of one of these elephants, and they start from a very young age. As you can see here, this elephant is pretty young. Now, a mahout will spend their whole life with one elephant, so it's almost like they're imprinting. They only have one throughout their lifetime. Now, one thing that makes it very difficult, not only is the training hard, but they are also extremely expensive to support. For example, an elephant can eat up to 550 pounds of plants and drink up to 80 gallons of water a day. So if the person that's training this elephant doesn't have access to that type of stuff, it's going to be extremely hard to take care of this animal, especially because they do continue to grow. They're not pixies by any means. They're giant animals. Now, the process that it roughly takes to train these elephants, according to my sources, it roughly takes about 20 years. So, it takes 20 years of training the elephant to do a specific task, whether it's pulling logs, whether it's performing for people, and so forth. Now, after they've been trained, these amazing animals would then work for around 30 plus years. So, roughly, these elephants would have a 50 plus year lifespan, and because they are owned by humans, they tend to have a much longer lifespan than if they were in the wild, because humans could then give these elephants medical attention if they were sick and so forth. Now, things started to change once the Thai government banned all logging in Thailand in 1989. The government did this in order to protect their vulnerable areas. So before, people would go to some of these protected places, and there was very few things stopping people from illegally cutting trees down. So the government just simply said, you know what, no more logging in Thailand. The problem was, this resulted in elephants losing their jobs, because that's what they mainly did in the mountains. But eventually, due to Thailand's popularity with tourists, many elephants are now used to entertain. So before, where they were used as pack mules, now they're being used more for entertainment than anything. To be exact, more than half of the population of elephants today work within the tourist industry, whether it's elephant rides, elephant sanctuaries, people owning them for circus, and that type of deal. So that's a pretty large number. Now, estimates have shown that there are roughly 2,700 domesticated elephants in Thailand. Now, that is a huge drop from 1850, when it was said that there used to be 100,000 domestic elephants. So, as you can see, as more and more people were using animals to cut down trees in the logging industry, many more were in captivity and were owned by people. And once the logging was completely banned, now the number of domesticated elephants has dropped from 100,000 to a little less than 3,000. Now, there are some elephants that still live in the wild. However, it is kind of hard to count because they live deep in the forests of Thailand. So it's kind of hard to get an accurate number. However, scientists estimate that there are roughly between 2,000 and 3,000 of these wild elephants. Down below you have a map of approximately where a lot of these Asian elephants live. Since we're talking about the country of Thailand, you can see Thailand does have some wild elephants living there. Another thing we are going to discuss in this video are the difference between the African elephant and the Asian elephant. First off, African elephants have, for one, larger ears. When you compare the two, you can kind of see that. Some people even say that they almost look like the continent of Africa. The ears, that is. They also tend to have rounder heads, as you can see here, round, whereas Asian elephants have twin domed heads, kind of like that, two domes. Kind of makes it look like it's got two bumps at the top of its head. African elephants, both male and female, can grow large tusks, which are these things down below. But we would kind of think of them as teeth. Whereas in the Asian elephants, only the males can grow tusks, and if they do, they're not as large as their African cousins. Another distinguishing feature is their size. The African elephant is considerably larger than the Asian elephant. On average, the African elephant can be about 10 to 13 feet at the shoulder. So kind of at the top of their shoulder. Whereas the Asian elephant, considerably smaller, at its highest, and some, give or take, is within 9 feet at the shoulder. So those are some very noticeable differences. Another thing that you can see just by looking at the two pictures is the different type of skin that they have. Asian elephants tend to have a much more spotty look. You could almost say they almost look like freckles on the Asian elephant, whereas the African elephant has more wrinkles, tends to be a lot more grayer, and the Asian elephant's a little more brownish, grayish. So those are just some key differences between the two of them. Now, however, although it is the national animal of Thailand, it is facing and dealing with some threats. The number one threat to the Asian elephant is habitat loss. Asia is probably one of our planet's most heavily populated continents, and because of that, and because of Asia's large population, this problem will continue to grow, because as more and more people are being born, that they are taking up more space. People are having to cut down trees in order to make room for towns and cities. So that obviously is going to give these elephants a lot less room to grow or live in. Another major problem is poaching, which is the illegal selling or killing of animals. Elephants are poached for their tusks, just like their cousin, the African elephant, which is why this picture here has elephant tusks surrounded with barbed wire, and then the blood can then be considered money. Unfortunately, they're killing these beautiful animals for money. Here you kind of see an example of what I'm talking about: an elephant having to cross the street. That just where humans and elephants are coming closer and closer in contact, and it's harmful towards them. Now, the main reason why the elephant is being killed is something known as the black market ivory trade. Now, ivory in the past was used for many different things. For one, it used to be made for teeth. For example, if a person's teeth fell out, this was a very easy way to kind of get them replaced, dentures essentially. They were also used in piano keys, and the main thing that they're used for is because of the material that it's from. It makes very beautiful sculptures, carvings, and that's one of the reasons primarily what they are. They were hunted for. However, lately, ivory has been finding its way in traditional Chinese medicines that unfortunately don't cure the diseases or illnesses that they say they do. It's more of they believe that it helps them, so therefore people are willing to pay a lot of money to have elephant tusks that they can then use in a medicine, powders, and things like that. But as you can see, they're very, very ornate, very, very beautifully carved. But unfortunately, it's at the cost of the elephant's life. Now, there are some things that have changed to make this more illegal. For one, it is now illegal to own. It is illegal to own ivory past 1990. So they passed a law in the early 1990s where they say if you own any ivory after 1990, then you can actually get into a lot of trouble, fines, potentially jail time. Anytime before that, you're in the clear, and I believe you need to have proper documentation. One thing that's being done to stop this problem, and as you see in the pictures, they're burning and destroying the ivory. Their hope is that by destroying it, they're getting it off the black markets, and this is going to hurt the poachers in their pockets because now they don't have any product to sell to people. Unfortunately, it's a very large problem that is not going to go away anytime soon. Unfortunately, a lot of these elephants live in a lot of places where there's a lot of political instability, there's a lot of wars going on, or civil conflicts, and unfortunately, when they're found in places where there's a lot of conflict, elephant conservation tends to kind of take a back seat, and it's considered not as important as other problems, which is a very scary thing. One thing that experts do agree on is that if something isn't done, the elephant may end up going extinct within our lifetime if something isn't changed. Unfortunately, elephants aren't the only animals that have ivory, and they're not the only animals that are being hunted. Other animals that are being hunted for their ivory are the rhino, walrus, sperm whale, the narwhal, and they're starting to even go after hippos. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, the ivory trade is very, very lucrative. People are willing to spend a lot of money on these types of things, which is unfortunate. Especially if something isn't done, we may end up losing more than just the Asian and African elephant. So very, very sad. But we'll talk more about this stuff in detail later. Like always, make sure you answer all the questions and turn in. Thank you.